The clock on the wall read 2 a.m. The silence of the night was almost deafening, broken only by the occasional hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. Another long night in Torrancetown. The streets were deserted, the town wrapped in a blanket of stillness that only the late hours could bring. I was halfway through a cup of coffee, the only company I had in the near-empty police station. The bitter taste was a small comfort, a reminder that I was still awake and alert. When the dispatcher's voice crackled through the radio, "Officer needed at Torrancetown General, possible sexual assault victim." The words hung in the air, heavy and urgent. My gut clenched. These calls were never easy. Each one carried a weight, a story of pain and fear that no one should have to endure. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door. The cold night air hit me as I stepped outside, a stark contrast to the warmth of the station. The victim's words echoed in my mind. I met him online. He seemed nice. The digital age had brought people closer, but it also brought new dangers. We were at T-Town Pub. My drink tasted funny. The pub, usually a place of laughter and camaraderie, had turned into a scene of suspicion and dread. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in his car. Her voice trembled with the memory, each word a testament to her ordeal. Her voice, filled with fear and confusion, fueled my determination to find the person responsible. I couldn't let this happen again. As I drove, I thought about the victim, alone and scared in the hospital. The sterile walls and bright lights would offer little comfort. I knew I had to be there for her, to let her know she wasn't alone. In moments like these, a kind word and a reassuring presence could make all the difference. The night was far from over, but I was ready to face whatever came next. The sterile white hallways of Torrancetown General always sent a shiver down my spine. The cold clinical atmosphere, combined with the faint smell of antiseptic, made it a place that felt both safe and unsettling at the same time. It was a place where lives were saved, but also where the harsh realities of life were often laid bare. I identified myself to the attending nurse and was immediately led to the victim's room. The nurse's face was a mask of professionalism, but I could see the concern in her eyes. She knew the gravity of the situation, and her steps were brisk as she guided me through the maze of hallways. The emergency room doctor briefed me on her condition. She was physically unharmed but clearly shaken. He explained that she had been found in a vulnerable state, and while there were no visible injuries, the psychological trauma was evident. His voice was calm, but there was an underlying urgency as he spoke. She had been brought in after being found unconscious outside T-Town Pub. The ambulance had arrived just in time, and the paramedics had acted swiftly to ensure her safety. The pub, usually a place of laughter and socializing, had turned into a scene of distress and confusion that night. The doctor confirmed she had been given a sedative, likely Rohypnol, also known as a roofie. This revelation added a layer of complexity to the case, as it indicated premeditation and malicious intent. The doctor's expression was one of frustration and determination, knowing that such cases were all too common yet always devastating. I approached her bedside cautiously. The room was dimly lit, and the beeping of medical equipment filled the silence. She lay there, looking fragile and lost, a stark contrast to the vibrant life she must have led before this incident. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. The tears had left streaks down her cheeks, and her hands trembled slightly as she clutched the hospital blanket. It was clear that she had been through an ordeal that no one should ever have to endure. I introduced myself, my voice soft and reassuring. I wanted her to know that she was not alone, that there were people who cared and were there to support her. Building trust was crucial, and I took my time to ensure she felt safe in my presence. I explained that I was there to help, to listen to her story, and to bring her attacker to justice. I assured her that every detail she could remember was important, and that we would use all available resources to find the person responsible. Her safety and well-being were our top priorities. She told me about her date, describing him as charming at first, but something felt off as the night wore on. She recounted how his demeanor changed subtly, becoming more insistent and less respectful of her boundaries. Her intuition had picked up on these red flags, but it was already too late. She remembered feeling dizzy after just one drink. Then everything went dark. Her underwear was missing. This detail was crucial, indicating a violation that was both physical and deeply personal. It was a stark reminder of the vulnerability she had faced and the violation of her trust and autonomy. I assured her that we would find the person responsible. I promised her that we would not rest until justice was served, and that she would have the support she needed to heal and move forward. Her strength in sharing her story was the first step towards reclaiming her life. The first hour after a crime is critical. Every second counts. I radioed for backup, requesting officers to secure T-Town Pub immediately. The bar, bustling with life just hours earlier, was now eerily silent. Yellow tape cordoned off the entrance, a stark warning to stay clear. My partner, Detective Miller, met me at the scene. "Anything from the victim?" he asked, his face grim. I relayed her story, emphasizing her suspicion of her drink being spiked. "Let's hope the security cameras caught something," Miller muttered. We entered the bar, the stale smell of beer and sweat heavy in the air. It was time to piece together the events of this horrific night. We started with the security footage. The grainy black and white images were our first glimpse into the events of that fateful night. The footage showed the victim and her date arriving at the bar around 10 p.m. They seemed relaxed, unaware of the tragedy that would soon unfold. They chose a table near the corner, away from the security camera's direct line of sight. It was a cozy spot, perfect for a quiet evening, but unfortunately, it also meant fewer clues for us. This was frustrating, but not a dead end. We knew we had to dig deeper, look beyond the obvious. We spoke to the bartender, hoping he could shed some light on the couple's interactions that night. He vaguely remembered the couple, but couldn't offer much. His memory was hazy, clouded by the busy night and the numerous patrons he served. However, he did point out the table where they sat. This was a small but crucial detail. We carefully collected the glasses and any other potential evidence from the table. Fingerprints, DNA, anything that could link the suspect to the scene. Each item was meticulously bagged and tagged. Every surface, every object could hold a clue. We examined the chairs, the table, even the ground around it, leaving no stone unturned. It was like putting together a puzzle in the dark, hoping each piece would lead us closer to the truth. The process was painstaking, but we were determined. Each clue, no matter how small, was a step toward solving the mystery. Section 5. The suspicious vehicle, a mobile crime scene. Outside, a patrol officer stood guard beside a late-model sedan. "Found it parked around the corner," he explained. "Doors were wide open. Found these inside." He held up a clear evidence bag containing a pair of women's underwear and a drinking glass. My blood ran cold. This was more than just a bar. The car was a crime scene, a mobile chamber of horrors. We meticulously photographed and documented every inch of the vehicle. The underwear and glass were carefully collected, their positions meticulously marked and measured. Every fiber, every smudge, every hair could be a piece of the puzzle that would help us bring the perpetrator to justice. Section 6. Expanding the search to West Main Street, the address of T-Town Pub. But it wasn't just the pub we needed to focus on. The victim was found unconscious outside the building. We needed to widen the search. We meticulously combed the area, treating the street as an extension of the crime scene. Every cigarette butt, every discarded gum wrapper, every piece of trash was scrutinized. We were looking for anything that could connect the suspect to the victim. The streetlights cast long, eerie shadows as we worked. The silence was broken only by the sound of our own footsteps and the distant sirens of the city that never sleeps. Section 7. Forensic Analysis, Unlocking the Truth. Back at the station, the evidence told a story of its own. The lab technicians worked tirelessly, analyzing fingerprints, running DNA tests, and examining every piece of evidence we had collected. The victim's blood work confirmed the presence of Rohypnol, corroborating her story. The drinking glass from the car yielded a clear set of fingerprints. A match? My heart skipped a beat as the technician compared them to our database. No match. Disappointment washed over me, but we weren't done yet. Every negative result fueled our determination to find the missing pieces of this complex puzzle. Section 8. The Hunt for the Suspect. The victim had met her date online, making identification difficult. We worked with the dating website, obtaining all information related to her communication with the suspect. His profile picture was blurry, his username generic. It was like chasing a ghost. We showed the victim a photo lineup of men who matched the limited description she could provide. She hesitated, her eyes scanning the faces, a flicker of recognition crossing her face. "I think it's him," she whispered, pointing to one of the photos. We had a name. The hunt was on. Section 9. Building a case. Justice for the victim. Days turned into nights as we tirelessly pursued every lead. We located the suspect, a man with a history of violence against women. The forensic evidence, coupled with witness statements and the victim's brave testimony, painted a damning picture. The arrest was swift, the prosecution meticulous. The evidence we had painstakingly gathered spoke volumes, ensuring that the perpetrator would be held accountable for his actions. The victim, although forever marked by the events of that night, showed incredible strength and courage throughout the investigation and trial. Her attacker's conviction wouldn't erase the pain, but it would hopefully bring a sense of justice and closure.